Hello, Squirrel Tribe. Let me know if y'all can hear me or not. I'm going to give it just a second. Like always, the last time we tried to do this, YouTube would let the audio through, but not the visual. It looks like the visual is working. I just want to make sure the audio is working. YouTube has not liked me going live lately. So I'm just going to 2 seconds for somebody to say 5x5 in the comments or anything like that. And then we will jump into everything that's going on. I will not be the first person to talk about this today. I will not be the last person to talk about this today. Truthful Artist, thank you very much. Let's talk about what happened. So I'm going to give you personal lead up into it because I think everybody is going to, this is not like 9/11. I don't want to make that comparison, but for a lot of people, I think it's going to be one of those things, just like people who were younger when when Pearl Harbor was bombed, when we went to war in Afghanistan, when we had all these different things, right? You kind of remember where you were when something happened, when you heard about a bombing, when you heard about the deployment, when you heard about whatever, right? I remember exactly where I was when 9/11 happened. The exact spot in the room that I was in and everything around me has been emblazoned in my brain. And now today, we dropped the bomb on Iran, which sounds like it should be a song. That will be emblazoned in my brain on where I learned about it, where I was standing, what was going on. So we are in Nashville right now. We were in Georgia the last 2 days for my mother-in-law's birthday. And yesterday we left around 10 a.m. and drove to Nashville to stay with some friends who live here because, you know, we love our friends and we wanted to see them. So we get here, we went out last night, we went bowling, we had some food, we hung out, and then we came home and we're all sitting around. And my husband, Kevin, those of you who know him, he falls asleep if he sits down on the couch. So he sat down on the couch and he passed out, like immediately knocked out. He was so tired from a long day of traveling and whatnot. So he fell asleep. And I am on my phone and I was looking through pictures that we took and I pulled up X. And the very first thing I see when I pulled up X was John Fetterman's post. Okay, so this is Fetterman's post. I'm going to read it to you. And then I see Donald Trump's post below it. It's the very first thing I saw because we had not turned on a TV. We weren't listening to a regular radio. None of these things. I hadn't been on any social media site because I was trying to, decompress from it for just a couple hours to enjoy time with friends. And so this is what John Fetterman, the Democrat out of Pennsylvania, posted on X, which then made me go, holy shit, what is going on? He said, as I've long maintained this was the correct move by POTUS, Iran is the world's leading sponsor of terrorism and cannot have nuclear capabilities. I'm grateful for and salute the finest military in the world. Anytime I see Fetterman and Donald Trump in the same post, it catches my eye, right? Like there's certain things that grab your attention, right? So then I see the post from President Trump. This is a Truth Social post that has been reposted everywhere. And it said, for those of you who have not read it or seen it, it says, we have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. I don't know how to say them correctly. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordow. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And I said, holy shit, we did it. And my very first thought in response, and not everybody's going to agree with it, and that's perfectly fine. That's what makes us great. You have your opinions, I have mine. You may have way more understanding of what Iran is, what it's been, what it could be in a negative way than I do, who hadn't really paid attention to all of the Middle East things as I was growing up, as I should have. But, I like I've told you guys, I am a reformed libtard, so I didn't always pay attention. And my very first thought was, well, we just started World War III. It was my very first thought was, we just started World War III. And my second thought was, I wish Israel had had the balls to do it themselves instead of us doing it for them. But a lot of people are saying that President Trump is the only one who had the balls to do it. The U.S. military is really the only military that had the capability to do it. And that it seems to be very 50-50 through a lot of the Republican conservative channels that I follow and a lot of the Democrat libtard is the only really word I know how to use there, channels that I will look at to kind of see what's going on, right? Because you got to pay attention to both sides. You cannot only focus on what you agree with. You have to watch the stuff that you don't agree with as well to understand where everybody's coming from, because then it helps you understand what's actually going on, right? So I'm looking at everything, and I see people talking about how now they want to impeach President Trump for dropping these bombs, everything else. But I was thinking about it earlier. I don't know how many of you have seen Top Gun Maverick. All right, and stay with me here. Top Gun Maverick with Tom Cruise. In Top Gun Maverick, the entire point behind that movie was because they needed to drop 2 bombs back to back in order to get it down into where needed to be blown up. Sorry if I'm giving anything away here if you haven't seen it. I hate it for you. But the movie premise was how difficult it was to get into enemy airspace unseen. The first bomber, which was, I don't remember which order they went in, honestly, but the first bomber had to hit a small target precisely. And once that target was hit, the person right behind him had to hit the target in the exact same spot with a different bomb so it would penetrate and blow up everything. And that is basically what happened in Iran with these bunkers that were blown up with the bunker bombs from the B-2s. I say it all the time, same thing, and I don't know why it's weird that it's Tom Cruise in all of these, especially since he's a Scientologist, but Mission Impossible, his newest one, Dead Reckoning and whatever else, there's a lot of things in these movies that have come out that they feel like a precursor to things that are going to happen or things that are going on. People talk all the time about how Hollywood tells you ahead of time what's going on and whatever else, right? So anyway, I see the thing about the bombs being dropped. So then we put it on Fox News last night. We're watching everything and paying attention to everything that's going on. And they're showing the videos of what's up. And my daughter, my husband and my daughter, she's almost 16. Our friends here, their daughter just turned 14. So they're asking a bunch of questions and we're trying to explain to them, like we're showing them where Iran is compared to Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia, Israel, and all this other stuff, and trying to go through everything and explain to them why Iran is considered detrimental, might be the right word, detrimental to not just the Middle East, but like the world, because of what they stand for or what they don't stand for and stuff like that. And we talked about this a couple of days ago before any of this ever happened. We talked about how Iran talked about shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. That's how y'all said to say it's Hormuz. And I said that if that happens, oil prices are going to go through the roof. Well, now that the U.S., President Trump has bombed Iran's nuclear, it's not even like a nuclear, I don't know if the right word is like holding site. I don't know what to call them. I know they have their own name and my brain is not coming up with it right this second. But after that, Iran's retaliation for right now is to now close down that Strait of Hormuz. So now you're going to see a lot of issues with oil prices in general, but also with supply chain again. It could feel very 2022 because that's when things really kind of went to a full complete stop here in the US and other places in the world because of COVID. Or whatever. This could be a huge issue because of this, right? But you have to take into consideration that what would have happened, because it's all a what if game. Like at the end of the day, it's all a what if game. What would have happened if we had done nothing and we just sat back, right, and did nothing, and then Iran was able to finalize a nuclear weapon and used it against us so that we could not help Israel in the future fighting between Israel and Iran? Because my brain goes, that's what would happen. If they had the capability to fire off a nuclear weapon, they're not going to fire it at Israel. They're going to fire it at the people who could back Israel and keep them safe and everything else. That's what my thought process would be. You don't go after your enemy first, you go after who could help your enemy win, right? Like that to me makes sense. So if they had been able to finalize these nuclear weapons, I think we would have been in a very precarious situation as the United States of America, being such a superpower, having the capabilities that we do military wise, having the amount of bodies that we do that we could put into the military, whether, you know, they're in shape or whatever else. At that point, it doesn't really matter, right? When you need somebody to fight for you. But what President Trump did, they said that he was playing look over here, not over there, right? They sent out decoy, B2s, that's what they're called, right? B2s, sent out decoy ones. I heard them saying last night from like Georgia and Florida, because we have in Florida a ton of Air Force and things like that, right? I'm between Tyndall and Eglin, so I see them all the time. They're saying they sent out a bunch of decoy ones, but then the actual fighter jets, or whatever they're called, I don't know what you're supposed to call them, that dropped the bombs, they deployed out of Kansas City, Missouri. And I have a video. Look, I'm all out of order here because that's what I do. But I have a video of them. This is them going back in to, it's very hard to see. It's a very small video there. But Nick Sorter posted it about an hour ago. The B-2 bombers used to strike Iran's nuclear facility have been spotted over New Jersey on their way back to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. He goes, no matter your thoughts on the strike, these pilots are patriots. They'll have spent 32 hours each up in the air by the time they land, being refueled multiple times mid-flight. This was a round-trip mission. There were no stops. So if it took 32 hours, it took them time to get there, obviously, time to do the job that was done, and then time to get back. And I don't know how long it will be until there is a retaliation, a physical one by Iran. Will there be one? I don't know how it's going to work. None of us know how it's going to work. Nobody can sit here and say that they know exactly what's going to happen. But you have to assume that there could be some crazy things. So then when I hear that there is a active shooter in, where was this? In Michigan today. This is about an hour ago. Active shooter in Wayne, Michigan. This dude drove his truck into a church, got out of his truck and opened fire with an automatic weapon. The church security guard ran him over with his truck and then got out and shot and killed him. So that all stopped. But there is video of it all. I don't want to go crazy with that. But this happening right after. You guys can see that there's kids and people in here in this church, and they're going to sit down, and the next thing you know, they all start running. And I know there's glare there. They all start running because this is when the guy drove his truck into the church. Then he gets out and starts firing shots. But thankfully they had security there, which is still crazy that you need security at churches, but they had security there to take him out. And they're saying that the guy, they gave more information of who he is. This guy, 31-year-old Brian Browning, is the suspect in the attack in Wayne, Michigan. This guy here, I can guarantee you he's probably a complete liberal or whatever else. But you're going to see a lot of things happening right now around our country and around the world. And a lot of people are going to wonder, is this a sleeper cell? That's the first words that people are now using. Is this a sleeper cell? Is this because of us bombing Iran's nuclear facility? Still doesn't feel like the right word because it's not nuclear facility, but they were trying to make nuclear weapons, whatever the thing is. So anytime something happens now, you're going to have to wonder and worry if it's a big deal. So we're here in Nashville. When Tristan, the girl I'm staying with, when we saw this happen, she said that they were worried about going downtown this weekend because they had heard there was going to be another No Kings protest here in Nashville, downtown Nashville this weekend. She's like, so we're just going to avoid downtown. And now she's like, if Iran decides they want to strike back, they're probably going to go for the big touristy places, which is my thought too. I would be the absolute most worried in New York City. I would be worried in certain parts of California, Nashville, Disneyland, Walt Disney World, certain parts of Texas, like places where people are congregating in large quantities. I would be worried about being there during a retaliation. All that's going to do, though, is make people live in fear because now we don't know what's going to happen. And that's the part that sucks. I think that there's going to be a lot of, and again, there's a lot of I think, a lot of my opinion, a lot of my thoughts in this. Obviously, there's fact here with what has gone on. But a lot of the things that I worry about, I'm not the only one who worries about it. I know that because of where I live, my brain goes, oh, we're safer here because we have the Air Force near us. We have all these people around us to keep us safe. The other part of my brain goes, who do you think they're going to go after first? They're going to try to take out the parts of your country that could stand up to fight back for you, that could protect you. So then I'm like, are we, where we live now, are we sitting ducks because we're in between these two Air Force bases? It's a very weird time to be in. Now, I know people are always going to be worried about what's happening in the world. We're always a little bit on edge, whether we realize it or not, that there could be some sort of altercation that occurs in our city, in our homes, to us individually. I haven't had a massive worry of war since 9/11, I was definitely worried about that after watching everything that happened. And then I didn't pay attention to it anymore. I have a tendency, or had a tendency, to kind of emotionally shut down when I would get scared or worried or panicked or overstimulated emotion-wise. Shut it down and then just tune it out and pretend like it doesn't exist. And I think a lot of people do that. And now my brain is going, stay focused, pay attention, woosah, talk through it, work through it, understand that if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. There's no point in having anxiety attacks over it. There's no point in stressing over it. There's nothing I personally can do by sitting here losing my shit, right? So let me see if I can do this right. This post here, I've never heard of this person, doesn't matter who they are, but it's an Iranian person. They posted on X and they said, maybe, just maybe, a genocidal death cult that murders its own citizens in the name of Allah and Muhammad should not have access to nuclear weapons. If this is what they do to Iranian women, imagine what they would do to a Western infidel like you. And the picture is a bunch of women that are hanging from ropes, that have been hung from the ropes in Iran for whatever reason. Maybe their head covering wasn't on all the way. Maybe they talked back. Maybe they rolled their eyes. Maybe who knows why, but they are there. It's a lot of women hanging. The person who made the comment that this got the retort from said, I'm hoping someone will soon explain to me why it's okay for Israel to have nukes, but not Iran. I'm sure there is a perfectly good reason. I've just not heard it yet. And people will ask that all the time. Why is it okay for this country to have it, but not this one? My thought, none of us should have nuclear weapons. It is the dumbest fucking thing that we should have. Whoever, I never did watch the movie Oppenheimer, and I'm pretty sure that's about the building of nuclear weapons, if I'm right. I could be horribly wrong. I don't remember. It just looked like it. I never paid attention to the preview for it. But I don't think anybody should have nuclear weapons. At no point in time do we need the ability to obliterate somebody else like that. That is absolutely ridiculous. But again, if you watch the newest Mission Impossible, this feels like what is leading up to what that movie was, where everybody has nuclear weapons. Everybody's worried that they're going to send them out. And so then everybody sends them all at once, kind of thing. Absolutely, absolutely ridiculous. Nuclear weapons should not be a thing. That is my personal opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own, right? Now, this here, I want to read you what Marjorie Taylor Greene said, because I think it's important. So I was talking to you guys before about how the Hodge twins seem to be very, very wishy-washy, right? And here's why. It turns out that the Hodge twins on their Facebook page, I think is what it's considered, they have an administrator who posts for them. They don't post on their own Facebook. They let somebody else post as them, which I think is absolutely stupid, to have somebody else posting as you, because you never know what they're going to say. Then you are the face behind it. I do all my own stuff. Nobody else is doing anything for me, because I don't want anybody thinking that something was said that I didn't say, or something was done that I didn't do. So I do everything, right? And Hodge twins, they have somebody who runs their Facebook. Their Facebook and their X posts were so incredibly 180-degree difference that they seem like they were pandering to a different audience in each social media app, whether it was YouTube, whether it was X, whether it was Facebook. Everything came across so very wishy-washy. And then they post up this morning that it's because whoever was running their Facebook account wasn't paying attention to their X account and wasn't posting up the way they actually feel. They said their X account is how they feel. Facebook is just somebody posting in the name of them. I think that's absolutely awful. So then I see this message from Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it made me realize that when the Hodge twins were talking, they were saying how there were Republicans that were neocons, feels like the right word they used. I didn't save any of their posts because they irritated me. They were saying that there were some that were Republicans that were all for the war, that were pushing it and basically salivating at the mouth, hoping it would happen. They were saying that there were others that were so busy kissing Trump's ass and were afraid to actually give their opinion. I don't remember what they called them. And they said something else about somebody else, right? And I've talked to you guys about it over the last couple of days, that it feels like the first sign of President Trump doing something that he thought was necessary to keep the United States safe. A lot of people seem to question him or pull back from Trump or pull back from MAGA. And then you have others going, well, if you just blindly follow him and trust him and whatever else, what does that make you? The thing is, you can like the president and agree with the president on everything, you don't have to agree with him. You can agree with him, but you don't have to agree with him on everything. So Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is what she said. She goes, my thoughts on bombing Iran. She goes, I don't know anyone in America who has been the victim of a crime or killed by Iran, but I know many people who have been victims of crime committed by criminal illegal aliens or murdered by cartel and Chinese fentanyl drugs. Almost everyone in our country can relate to this fact. However, America has not dropped bunker busters on the cartel's sophisticated drug tunnels, launched tomahawks on massive cartel poisonous drug operations, or gone to war against the cartel's international terrorist networks. Neocon, there's that word again, neocon warmongers beat their drums of war and act like Billy Badasses going to war in countries most Americans have never seen and can't find on a map, but never find the courage to go to war against the actual terrorists who actually do kill Americans, invade our land, and make billions doing it day after day, year after year. She said, I'm 51 years old. I'm Gen X. I've watched our country go to war in foreign lands for foreign causes on behalf of foreign interests for as long as I can remember. I was in 10th grade when Desert Storm started, and my father before me was sent to Vietnam, another senseless foreign war. America is $37 trillion in debt, and all of these foreign wars have cost Americans trillions and trillions of dollars that never benefited any American. American troops have been killed and forever torn apart physically and mentally for regime change, foreign wars, and for military-industrial base profits. I'm sick of it. I can easily say I support nuclear-armed Israel's rights to defend themselves and also say at the same time I don't want to fight or fund nuclear-armed Israel's wars, nor any other country for that matter. I'm sick of funding foreign aid in foreign countries and foreign everything. I want to fund American interests and issues. I want great trade deals so American businesses and people can afford goods and be successful. I want low inflation and low interest rates. I want American construction, housing, and manufacturing to boom. I want Americans to be rich and have security in their future. I want my children's generation to have a great future. She said, my kids are 22, 25, and 27. It pisses me off beyond comprehension that my children's generation can't afford to buy a house, can't afford insurance, and have little hope for their future. Americans are exhausted by all of this, and rightfully so. I can also support President Trump and his great administration on many of the great things they are doing while disagreeing on bombing Iran and getting involved in a hot war that Israel started. That's not disloyalty. Critical thinking and having my own opinion is the most American thing ever. Because contrary to what brainwashed Democrat boomers say, Trump is not a king, MAGA is not a cult, and President Trump has surrounded himself with people who once disagreed with him and even ran against him for president. Also, the same Democrats in Congress that are all of a sudden clutching their pearls about Trump bombing Iran fully supported and voted for to fund dementia-ridden Biden's proxy war against Russia and Ukraine and stood by Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Hypocrites is all they are, and they are just desperately trying to find solid ground to oppose Trump on because so far they've failed at grasping anything yet. Now, what has been done is done. And Americans now fear Iranian terrorist attacks on our own soil and being dragged into another war by Netanyahu when we weren't even thinking about any of this a week ago. We don't know what the future holds, and I pray for the safety of all people and an end to the constant demand for America to go to war. Enough is enough. And I have to tell you that back in the day when I was still considered, I would say I was still considered possibly Democrat or a libtard or whatever, and during Trump's first presidential term, where I was paying more attention to mainstream media than anything, I did not like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Reading this, I have never agreed more with somebody. I am almost 44. My daughter is almost 16. And I look at the house that we owned when she was a baby. The house that my husband and I, our very first home, we paid $125,000, $125 or $135, doesn't matter. I don't remember exactly which one it was. It's either $125,000 or $135,000. And he was 24, I was 27. We got a little bit of age difference between us. It's okay. And it's our very first home, starter home at $125 or $135. And now that exact same home, just 14 years later, nothing has changed about it. That exact same home is now $445,000. If we were just starting out with a baby at 23 and 27, 24, 27, whatever, we would not have been able to afford that home. Yes, pay has gone up for a lot of people. You're making more money, but everything costs so much more that our daughter by the time she is in her early 20s, if she wants to be able to afford a house, she needs to have been making money since she was in diapers. She needs to already have a ton of money saved up. She needs to have a very good job. She needs to have all these different things just to afford to have a house that doesn't require 5 roommates to help her pay for it, because we spend so much money funding all these other countries. Ukraine posted up some dumb shit about how they need from us $40 billion a year to be able to continue their fight and keep their people alive. And I'm like, no, it's not up to me to pay my neighbor's bills. So why are my tax dollars going to pay your bills? It does not make sense. If you really step back and look at everything, even with the limited knowledge that I have of all the politics throughout the world and everything else, it is very easy to see that we as a country do more for everybody else than we do for ourselves. And it's not because of your ideas or my ideas. It's because of the governments that are in place. And even though President Trump is a president, he still cannot do everything without going through the House and the Senate. Everything has to be pushed through by a group of people who have to agree on it. When that group doesn't agree on it, a lot of people don't get what they want. And then the foreign wars and everything else end up happening, and all of our money leaves our borders. Absolutely effing ridiculous, right? So then, wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. I'm trying to find, okay. So this post here that I saw, one is from Tim Pool. I don't know how a lot of people feel about Tim Pool. I'm gonna let everybody else decide their own things. I liked his post, so I'm going to read it to you now. He said, gas prices are about to skyrocket. U.S. will deploy to secure the strait, which is the Strait of Hormuz or whatever we called it. Iran will strike U.S. personnel and assets, and U.S. will invade. And I worry that that's exactly what's going to happen. Because we were the first ones to really make a move that affects Iran. The little bombs going back and forth between Tehran and Tel Aviv, those are awful, right? But none of those were really doing anything from what I've seen. It wasn't something that was causing catastrophic anything, right? But now the bombing of these nuclear places, that takes it to a completely different level. And we as the United States have done that, not Israel, which puts us as the ones starting the war, which is terrifying, right? So when he says that, the U.S. now, because we want that Strait of Hormuz to stay open because the oil passage and all that stuff, that the U.S. will try to secure the strait, to deploy people to secure the strait, which is our men and women, right? Your daughters, your sons, your brothers, your sisters, your moms and dads, they're going to be out there. Iran will strike U.S. personnel because then we're in their space once again. And then, of course, the U.S. will have to fight back. I'm really worried that this is going to be something that we as a country don't want. But the question still remains, was it necessary? Because Iran having nuclear weapons could have been seriously detrimental to the United States of America. This is that what if game, right? That's how I feel about it. Is that what if game. What if they had been able to finalize the nuclear weapons? What if they had shot them off at the U.S.? What if they had sent them to Israel? What if this? What if that? What if we hadn't bombed them and they were able to finish them? What if we do bomb them and they're able to finish them? You have to think that they're sitting there. We talked about it a couple of days ago, how at Papa John's and Pizza Hut, they had this massive spike from the Pentagon ordering pizzas because they were staying up all night talking about it. And then literally 36 hours, we've bombed Iran. They were there talking about it. They had to go through every single channel of what could happen. You have to play the what if game, no matter who you are in life, the president or a preschool teacher. What if this toddler has this and does this? Like, you have to think of all of the outcomes from your actions or lack of actions. So they obviously went through everything and decided that the best possible outcome was to bomb Iran, because we as the United States of America have a massive military. And if we are stepping in, which is what it feels like, for Israel and doing this for them, although I know that President Trump would not just do this for Israel, it is to keep America safe. You have to hope, which again, hope in one hand, shit in the other, see which one fills up faster. But you have to hope that if we end up in some sort of back and forth with Iran, that Israel will then be our allies like they're supposed to be and fight with us if necessary. I don't want to fight at all. I don't like that we bombed them. Nothing I can do about it. But now it's like, where do we go from here? That's what I want to know. Where do we go from here? So, Oh, hold on. Elizabeth Warren said, last night, Trump said Iran's nuclear program was completely and totally obliterated. This morning, J.D. Vance says we will permanently dismantle that nuclear program over the coming years. She goes, which is it? Sounds like more endless war against the will of the American people. Now, Elizabeth Warren is a twat. At the end of the day, we all know it. She knows it. She just doesn't really want to she doesn't own up to it, but she's a twat. And when President Trump says completely and totally obliterated, we did, and according to them, completely and totally obliterated the areas that we knew of where they were doing their nuclear whatever. When J.D. Vance, vice president, comes out and says, we will permanently dismantle that nuclear program over the coming years, there's still people there who know what they're doing. There's probably still little places here and there where they have little parts, but those other places we bombed were where they were making the whole. So yeah, it's going to take more than just overnight to get it all said and done. I'm not a fan of Elizabeth Warren at all. Y'all know that. Either way. Then you have AOC, her dumbass, posting up that she's calling for the impeachment of President Trump, citing a pattern of dangerous and unconstitutional behavior, as well as serious concerns over his recent actions in office. You have Jasmine Crockett posting up about how she's shocked that President Trump didn't reach out to her before he decided to bomb Iran. Why anybody would reach out to Jasmine Crockett for anything other than how to put on ghetto-ass eyelash advice, I'm not quite sure. She's not good for anything whatsoever. So you have them posting up about it. Ariana Grande, for those of you who for some reason like her, reposted AOC's post about how we need to impeach President Trump. Ariana Grande's clearly lost her ever-loving mind, though, a long time ago. But what's crazy is they're calling for the impeachment of President Trump. And I'm trying to find where I saved this. Hold on. I've got information that goes with this on the impeachment so that you know that there's no reason. One, there's no reason to impeach him. It makes absolutely no sense. But here are the lists. Okay. The past presidents that bombed countries and were not impeached. Okay. This is not the first time a president has dropped bombs, which is total hypocrisy. So Sassafras 84 on X put this list together. Barack Obama, 2009 to 2017. He bombed Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, Pakistan. Okay. George Bush in 2001, 2009, Afghanistan, Iraq. Bill Clinton, 1993, 2001, Iraq, Serbia, Sudan, Afghanistan. George H.W. Bush, you know, Bush daddy, whatever. 1989, 1993, Iraq, Panama. Ronald Reagan, 81 through 89, Libya, Grenada. Jimmy Carter, good old Jimmy Carter, which I still can't believe they rolled that man out there looking like, I swear he was dead when they rolled him out to vote. That man could not vote for himself, but they were so, wanted to push that he voted for Kamala. No, he didn't. That's probably what killed him. Anyway, Jimmy Carter, 77 to 81. None significant is what they're saying. Same thing with Gerald Ford, none significant. Nixon, though, 69 to 74. Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, which is a landlocked country. I learned that on King of the Hill. Lyndon B. Johnson, 1963 to 1969. Vietnam and the Dominican Republic. And none of them were impeached. None of them had to go through Congress to get the approval to do what they did. They did what needed to be done for the country. Technically, President Trump has done what he thought needed to be done for the country. So all these people talking about he needs to be impeached, they're just stupid. And you'd think that they would know better. It's not necessary. It's not going to happen either way. The last thing, there's plenty of stuff we can talk about. This is all I want to talk about right now. This picture here, this was posted and they said, what comes to mind when you see this picture? You have President Trump, you have J.D. Vance, you have Marco Rubio, and you have Pete Hegseth. They did a live broadcast. I still don't know what to call these things. You'd think I would by now. But they talked about it live after Iran was bombed. President Trump came out and had a conversation. And here, he posted it, or they posted it up on X and other places. They came out and spoke. President Trump did. And you have J.D. Vance and, like I said, Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth back there. But they said, what does that picture make you think? And that picture, I'm not going to play the audio here because it doesn't pick up very well for some reason. But that picture of those four men walking down that hall, with the faces they had and everything else, it made me think of four men who did not want to do what they had to do. That's what I get from it. Whether people agree with it or not, that's perfectly fine. Again, I would much rather you have your own opinion than just fall in line with mine because it's easier. That doesn't help anybody. Make your own opinions on things, right? But that picture to me shows men who did what needed to be done in their minds, right? We'll put it like that, in their minds, and aren't happy about what needed to be done. President Trump didn't come out there and, gleefully be like, haha, we bombed Iran, suckers, we gotcha. No, it was a very somber moment. He made his comments. The men stood behind him and supported the president as they should. And that was that. But it's got to be a difficult decision no matter what. Being the president has got to be difficult no matter who you are, unless, of course, you're Joe Biden and everybody else is using the auto pen to make the decisions for you. It's got to be a difficult thing to do. And for President Trump, with this decision, now he has to live with if it was the right decision or a bad decision. He has to live with the outcome of the decision that he made and what will now happen in retaliation or not towards the United States of America, right? It's a hard place to be in. I would not want his job, number one. But I am thankful personally, at the end of the day, no matter what, I am thankful that we have a president who has a pair of balls and will do what he believes needs to be done to keep us safe. He has said from before he was ever in office as president that Iran could not have nuclear weapons. And he just made it happen, right? So that they cannot have nuclear weapons. That's probably going to be one of the best things for the entire world that has ever happened. Iran not having nuclear weapons. So that's where we're at right now with everything. And again, there's okay, maybe this last one. Iranian state television displays a graphic of U.S. bases in the Middle East titled, "Within the Fire Range of Iran, Mr. Trump, you started it and we will end it." So I know there are a lot of people who are in military spaces or even embassies and things like that in the Middle East who are probably on extremely high alert right now, very worried about what's going to happen because retaliation, like I said, it could be swift and immediate. It could take weeks and months until you're not paying attention anymore. That prolonged retaliation so that maybe the people drop their guard and stuff like that. And then boom, out of nowhere, it's going to be something that everybody needs to pay attention to. Don't drop your guard. Don't let your guard down. I would say if you can avoid massive crowded places, do so, because you just never know what could pop off. But don't be so scared that you just, hide all the time. But anyway, look, like I said, we could do more, but that's it. I wanted to just go over what happened, not whatever, and tell you guys how I heard about it because it was crazy. Sassafras posted this up earlier, which I thought was funny. I just want to tell you what this says. It says, "Do not listen to the fake news. America did not bomb Iran. It was a mostly peaceful protest against their nuclear facilities." It's funny because LA with the riots, well, we didn't set cars on fire and cause massive damage and whatever else. It was a mostly peaceful protest, according to what's her name, Maxine Waters. Anyway, that's all. I thought that was funny. So besides that, I love y'all immensely. Go try to relax and woosah. Easier said than done, especially if you happen to have anybody that you love or know that's part of the military right now who's obviously going to be worried about deployment and things like that. So thoughts with you, prayers with y'all. But besides that, I love y'all very much. I'm going to go hang out with my friends and try to still enjoy being here. And I will see you guys again tomorrow. Okay? I love y'all. Goodbye.